going on, everybody? My name is Timothy Lamar Cato III, a.k.a. Mr. I Got More to Say. And this is yet another episode of I Got More to Say. And today I'm joined by a very special young lady and individual. This young woman is the founder of Sneakvibing Media. Personally, there's a lot of other titles and jobs that she does within Sneakvibing Media, but she prefers founder, so we'll leave it at founder. Sneakvibing Media, Buffalo's very own, one of the leading voices in hip-hop media, especially one of the leading female voices in hip-hop media. I am joined by none other than the lovely Miss Schondra Aytch. Schondra, how are you doing?
That was a great introduction.
Yes, ma'am.
My goodness, wow.
Yes, ma'am.
I appreciate that. I'm doing great. I'm happy to be here and really enjoying Rochester, enjoying all today, and I'm happy to be here with you, so.
No, certainly, Schondra.
Yeah.
I really do genuinely appreciate that. Schondra, thank you so much for taking the time to come all the way up here, for, making the travel to come up here and come be on I Got More to Say. I Got More to Say is very similar to your platform. It was a platform to really celebrate and appreciate and reach people based upon the world of hip-hop culture and music. And, I had heard about you, I want to say probably sometime in July of 2023. And
oh, wow.
It was before then. It was probably around maybe even late 2022, maybe even January 2023.
Wow, it's almost a little more than a year ago.
Yeah, a little bit more than a year ago. Yes, I know about Sneakvibing. I didn't necessarily know about you and you being the person behind it.
Gotcha.
So, make a long story short, just to start the episode off. So, Markel Jeffries, also known as Franks in Buffalo.
Yep.
You know what
Shout
I'm saying?
out to Franks.
Shout out to Franks, one of the nicest MCs in Buffalo. Love you, Frankie. Me and him were in the middle of doing our collaborative effort called Beautiful Days, his album. And
oh, yeah.
Yes. I was the executive producer of that album.
Oh, wow.
Yes, I was.
Awesome.
Yes, I got a little bit of musical chops myself.
Yeah.
So me and him, I remember you and him were kind of communicating, and I think you might have reviewed or covered Beautiful Days, or you guys did some kind of collaborative effort and promo. Thank you for that promo, by the way.
Absolutely.
Because I think it definitely helped drive up me and Frankie's numbers for that album, so we appreciate you. And, she was like, oh yeah, Schondra, she from the towns, being Buffalo, New York. Again, big 716 stand up. And she runs Sneakvibing Media. She's been at it for a while, this, that, and the third. And at Syracuse, as I said before, I tell people, Syracuse was the best time of my life, but they owe me hair transplant surgery, as you can see, because, a lot of long nights, early mornings. So anyways, with that being stated, I had never really put two and two together, but then I forgot, I remember now. Zach G, shout out to Zach G.
Shout out Zach
Bridge
G.
Upstate, we salute them, make sure that y'all
shout
go
out
follow.
Bridge Upstate,
yes.
Bridge the Culture.
Go tap in. Zach G, when I met with him and Angel. Angel's the co-founder of...
shout out Angel,
too. Definitely shout out
Yeah.
Angel. He's the co-founder of the Bridge Upstate. Zach G was like, hey, Cato, Schondra would be a great person to get on your platform. Frankie had mentioned you a couple times as well. And then recently, Pretty Bully. From another MC from Buffalo, New York. Make sure y'all go tap in
Shout
with
out Pretty Bully.
Definitely shout out to Pretty Bully. And make sure y'all go tap in to Pretty Bully's Bully Bites. Do yourself a favor. The food is...
She can cook. She can throw down.
The food is immaculate.
Yeah.
Anyways, so I asked Pretty Bully. I was like, hey, Pretty Bully. I was like, do you know of a young woman named Schondra? She was like, that's sis. And everybody just had all positive things to say about you.
Wow.
And I was like, you know what? It's my business to get Schondra Aytch on the show. So anyway,
Thank you for pronouncing my last name right.
Yes, ma'am.
So many people say like Aytch or Aytch, which is okay. I get it because I have a complicated last name, but wow, you got it right on the first time.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So I was like, I have to meet this young woman. So Schondra, once again, thank you for being here.
Absolutely.
Schondra, just because I don't want to waste any time, Schondra, talk to us a little bit about your life, your background, where you come from, how you grew up, and what pretty much led to you doing this hip hop thing at the high level that you do it at.
Man, so I would say my start was, the core of everything I do is definitely inspired by my family. I come from a big family. I'm the oldest of 5, oldest daughter. I come from a very religious family, Christian family. They definitely had, I really do appreciate that time period growing up because they did definitely instill a lot of values in us. Same parents, mom and dad in the household growing up, and that's a beautiful thing. Just to be surrounded by, I didn't even realize how rich I was just in that moment. Having a beautiful black family, both parents in the household, celebrating one another, always finding ways to connect with each other, have family time. So I definitely appreciate, my family and my parents for that. So my parents are originally from. With that said, here's where it gets, exciting and juicy. My parents are originally from New York City. My dad is from the Bronx. My mom is from like New Rochelle. That's like Yonkers area. And so they both are the products of, they both experienced that really early rise of hip hop in New York City and the origin. And so my dad witnessed Grandmaster Flash DJing in the projects. My mom used to hang out with Heavy D and his friends and stuff. And so they were both people that were experiencing the hip hop scene. And they both met each other in church. So they both got saved or became Christians around the same time. We're young people in church. We're really involved in youth ministry. My dad really got into Christian hip hop, so I actually grew up listening to a lot of Christian hip hop. And to a certain degree, we were sheltered because of that. But I really just, again, I really appreciate that time because it really fostered community, positivity, and the love of music. So even though we listen to a lot of Christian hip hop, we also listen to, my dad loves Michael Jackson, my dad loves Rakim. So we listen to a lot of like early hip hop, we listen to a lot of like funk, disco. So really my early start of like just being a music lover comes from my parents. My parents also did a lot of outreach ministry. They were really involved with the youth. Every weekend they would go out. My dad would DJ like Christian hip hop music on any corner in the hood. A lot of times on the east side of Buffalo. And my mom would minister, and we would give away free food, barbecue, give away free food to the community. And so again, like really just having us involved in that. And I think that's something that stayed in me and it was embedded in me. So let's fast forward. I kind of grew up like part Bailey, so I kind of grew up somewhat on the east side, still very sheltered though. We were either at home in our backyard where our dad would play music or at church most of the time. But then I also grew up suburbia part of the time. So I did go to school in Amherst. I went to a school in Cheektowaga. We traveled a lot too. We kind of traveled we lived in a lot of different places within Buffalo. And so my experience with that was experiencing different communities. I would be in, predominantly black communities, predominantly white communities. I spent a large portion of my high school, middle school period in a predominantly white community in white space. And so that also caused me to be influenced by, rock music and pop music and things like that. And also kind of challenge my identity as well. I definitely feel like a lot of young black kids talk about it now, but I think all young black kids kind of go through this little bit of an identity crisis when they're like 15, 16, whether you're in a predominantly white space or not, where you're trying to just like really figure out who you are in the world and how you can move in the world being a melanated person. Mm-hmm. And so that was something I really struggled with, but I feel like Buffalo State is what really kind of solidified that I can just be me.
Buffalo State College, right?
Yes, Buffalo State College. So shout out to Buff State for having a beautiful, diverse community of people on campus. There's a lot of kids from the city that come there, a lot of kids from just the East Coast. And so it was like a culture shock for me because I went from this predominantly white space to this predominantly black presence. And not just black presence, but you got Caribbean people, African people. They're like, they know where they're from. They know their ethnicity. And it just instilled a different kind of pride in me. I always knew that I was passionate about writing. I took a lot of AP Lit courses in school, and so it was just natural for me to be a journalism major at Buff State. I went to Buff State, was a journalism major, got immediately involved in a record newspaper, writing, and just kind of just make this a long story short. Because of that, I did like a lot of internships, connecting with a lot of other writers in Buffalo, which ultimately led me to creating my own personal blog that I really didn't share that much. It was called Sneakvibing, as it's called now. Mm-hmm. And it was just me personally kind of share. And the reason why Sneakvibing came about was because at this point, everybody was saying sneak dissing in rap songs a lot. Mm-hmm. And then also a vibe, like It's a Vibe became a popular thing, like I feel like 2012, 2011.
So you just blended.
And so I blended it together. Mm-hmm. Sneakvibing was my way of, what I realized was that, because I was this like nerdy black girl, when I would share my opinion when I would talk about like any music, not just hip hop music, but any music, people would almost be shocked at how knowledgeable I was, because I think they would just determine like, what does she know about what? So I can remember this instance where I was in I think I was in a restaurant or something, and they were playing Watsky, which is just basically this like, I believe he's neurodivergent, but he has some mental health issues, but he's a rapper. And they were playing it, and I said, "Oh, is that Watsky playing? Like, that's dope. You got the new Watsky playing?" And the guy, like his mouth dropped and was like, "Whoa!" He's like, "I would never expect you to know who Watsky is." And I'm like, "That's because I listen to everything, like literally everything. There's not really anything. It could be as wild as it is. I listen to a lot of different things." So long story short, that's why I came up with Sneakvibing, because it was almost like, what is Batman's name?
Bruce Wayne.
Bruce Wayne. It was almost like, this is Schondra, and then this is Sneakvibing. So like, this is who I am. This is what I'm passionate about. This is the part like most people don't get to see, is you just looking at me. And so basically, Sneakvibing came about in 2013. It was a personal blog. Pivoted it in 2017. This was around the time where I really started to develop confidence in my writing. I was writing for Queen City Webzine. I always got to give a shout out to Queen City. Shout out to Christy Mangle. I met her at a Buffalo Bloggers meetup, and she was just like, there's all these different bloggers, and a lot of them write about lifestyle, and a lot of them don't look like me. And then there was this one white woman with a bald head, blonde hair, and she was just like, "We write about badass women." Like, she stood up and she said that, and I was like, "Oh, I need to talk to her," because she just seemed so different to me. And so I really appreciate her for giving me the opportunity to write on her platform. And Queen City definitely had a really dope motion in Buffalo. I believe they're disbanded now, but shout out to all the women of Queen City for really just encouraging me, kind of bringing me on board. And they let me do this series I called Fire FMCs, writing about women in hip hop. That's where I feel like the passion really began, where I realized my confidence grew. The reception of the writing pieces was like real. I was like shocked by the reception. And then also I realized, hold on, I can do this like on my own. I feel like I needed kind of like that co-sign and approval, but once I did it, I was like, oh man, I can do this. So that's when I really pivoted Sneakvibing in like 2017, 2018, and really got active on social media, Instagram, Twitter, net, and also TikTok now and stuff like that. Just basically covering hip hop in Buffalo.
Yes.
That was a very long-winded answer, but that was just kind of gives the foundation of what I do.
Oh, gotcha. Well, now, Schondra, thank you for that. Thank you for so beautifully speaking about your adolescence and all the different roles that played into a part of Sneakvibing, which has pretty much been running the Buffalo hip hop media landscape. No disrespect to any other platforms, but
shout out to the other platforms, because there are some dope. Shout out to Lit City 716, what they're doing. Shout out to Connected, what they're doing.
Yep.
Shout out to Vibe High. Demika Evans, what she's doing.
Certainly.
I'm trying to make sure. Shout out to Tim Madden. He's a new writer, but he covers like rock. He just covers all different type of music. So shout out to the platforms that's been around. There was this platform called, oh my gosh, Buffalo Hip Hop Crew or Buffalo Hip Hop something. I think they still have stuff on social media, but they were one of my biggest inspirations, and I used to tap into them all the time. So really shout out to the people that built a foundation. Shout out to Saturday Night Buffalo, because there are some platforms that's doing dope things, but I really appreciate you guys, kind of really engaging with me and like allowing me to collaborate on the dope stuff that you guys do. So Spotlight Series, Betty Crock Entertainment. Yeah, there's definitely some platforms out there, but I appreciate you guys like really, supporting me in the Sneakvibing movement, for sure.
For sure. Well, as definitely huge shout out to all of those aforementioned platforms and channels that Schondra mentioned. But yeah, Schondra, just with Sneakvibing, so you say you started it in 2013.
Yes.
Yes. Schondra, what was actually, hold on, let me backtrack. So when you said as you grew up and when you would know so much about music in general, but especially hip hop music, people would look at you sometimes kind of sideways. They'd be surprised. So Schondra, how did you break out of your own kind of head and have enough confidence to say to yourself, like, you know what, I'm gonna share my music opinion. Some people may not like it. I'm also a woman in this very male-dominated space. How did you I don't even want to say overcome that fear, but you know, how did you take those first steps into believing in yourself enough and in your words enough to create your own platform?
Man, it was really a journey. It was like gradual, like little steps, because I'm introvert by nature. I've learned to be extroverted because of what I do now, so I'm way more vocal and way more communicative than I used to be. I just always felt like, and I think this is something that no matter who you are, you deal with it, but specifically when you're Black and you're a woman, you know, you're hyper focused on like what you look like, how people receive you, things like that. And so I never felt like I fit in the box that people wanted me to fit in, you know, in so many different ways. There's so many different ways I could go about that. But just to keep it short, like I just felt like I never fit in fully with a certain group or a certain group of people. And I realized that, you know, I have strong opinions. I was very quiet, but I always had very, very strong opinions and perspectives on things. And I would say I remember seeing this quote. There was a time when I was really obsessed with Jaden Smith. This is even before like he was in his whole icon era. This is when he was like coming up, when he was like 16, 17, and he was doing stuff with Misfits. If you know, you know. And so I remember one time he had. I still think he's an amazing artist too. But I remember he had this one bar in his song where he said his father told him, to change the world, you got to understand it first. That always stuck with me. And then also Will Smith said, do it scared. Basically, fear is always going to be there, you know, because, and it's kind of good that you have fear because that means you care. But fear is always going to be there. You just have to do it scared. And so I think it was gradual for me. I think me stepping out to write for the Record newspaper was a step. Then connecting with people at the Record newspaper who referred me to Buffalo bloggers was a step. Then taking that step to even walk up to Christy at Buffalo bloggers, that was a step. Then I will say this too. There was a person that was a super close friend of mine at the time, and he would encourage me all the time. I mean, like, nonstop encouraged me to apply for things. He's the reason why I ended up doing an internship at WNY Muslims. And yeah, so there was like certain moments in my, I guess, communications career that were just gradual and slowly built up my confidence. I would really say, though, when I did that Fiery Femces series for Queen City, when I wrote that, I feel like that really just confirmed, you know, that, oh man, I can do this. I'm capable of doing this. You know, I don't have to question now. And so that really, but it wouldn't have happened if it didn't happen gradually, just because I know myself and I know I'm like, I'm the type of person, I just can't jump in the water. Like, I gotta slowly step in. So, yeah, but it's really about taking those risks. People, you have to not be afraid to fail too. Like, you should invite failure because failure is only gonna teach you.
Yes.
So, and that's something I'm still learning because I hate rejection. I hate rejection. I hate feeling like I failed. But you need those moments so that you can kind of learn and then take it to the next level. So now when you do it again, you're not doing it again from like no knowledge. You're doing it again with knowledge of the shortcomings and, you know, and it helps you continue to work on yourself too. So it's really just going step by step. And this is a journey. I'm nowhere near being this great figure. I still have certain doubts and unsure of things. And we were even talking about, what were we talking about? You said it earlier. Where like sometimes you feel like you don't belong. Imposter syndrome. So, I mean, we all deal with that. Even people at the highest level deal with that. So it's really just about taking those steps, you know, and like really challenging your fear. Like, where's this fear coming from? Because a lot of times it's just those intrusive thoughts telling you that you can't do something, or you just being hard on yourself and judging yourself. So. Yes,
ma'am.
Yeah.
Nah, certainly. You know, before we actually get to Sneakvibing Media, because I know you said that you started off with, you said, what was the name of the publication that you started off writing?
Well, at Upstate, it was
No, the one with the woman, the lady.
Oh, Queen City.
Queen City. You said you did Fiery FMCs.
Yes.
Can you talk to us about that? Because just from previous conversations when me and you spoke, and even what you just, even what you said now, you said that is really when you were like, you know what, I could do this. Like,
yeah.
So can you talk to us about that idea, how it came about, and how you executed it?
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to think about now because it really set precedent for what happened with Ladies First.
Okay.
I mean, years apart because Ladies First happened in 2021. Fiery FMCs I wrote in 2017.
Okay.
So it really set precedent years before I even knew I would do Ladies First. But Ladies First was kind of like a product that was kind of burning and searing in me from really Fiery FMCs. So basically...
And we'll get to Ladies First in a second.
Yes, we will. We will. We will talk about Ladies First. So basically, I really got to acknowledge Queen City. I'm always about giving people their flowers. So Queen City was all women ran. So it was all women. They were all, a little older than me. At this point I was like in my mid-20s, and they were all like in their, I would say mid to late 30s, maybe 40s possibly. And so I'm the youngest one on the crew. And they're all women that just are like dynamic, opinionated, strong-willed, and I'm looking up to them because I'm like, I've always felt this way. I just never would share it because I felt like intimidated by, what people would think. And so I feel like just being in their presence was something that really inspired me. So shout out to them again. So basically, also I have to shout out, not the record. What was it called? I can't remember the newspaper right now, but basically there was this, The Public. So there was this newspaper, I believe that it consisted of people from the Art Voice, which was a newspaper in Buffalo, but it was a short-lived newspaper called The Public, and I did an internship with them. They had me covering music artists, basically like doing previews of music artists that are coming to Buffalo. And so when I did this, I'm looking up these artists that are coming to Buffalo, all these dope, but it was mainly alternative and rock artists, not a lot of hip hop artists. I would do hip hop artists here and there, and they would even say, go find events that are happening so that we can write about it and let people know. So then I started looking into more hip hop events, started searching for hip hop events, and I started going to like hip hop events, or when hip hop artists, like, kind of like the homegrown underground hip hop artists would come to Buffalo, I would go to the events. So this is around the time I really got into going to events. Queen City was assigning me to go to events. So I started going to shows. I remember one of the shows that really had an impact on me was, shout out to Lindsay Taylor, who runs the Buffalo celebration every year. He's done amazing things. He's been an organizer in Buffalo for years. I think it's called Crown Entertainment as well. But shout out to Lindsay Taylor. He had something that was like a pre-Buffalo celebration celebrating all women. And that's where I saw Lindsay Nix sing for the first time. I don't know if you know Lindsay Nix. She's a gospel singer, but she's also now the background singer for Lauryn Hill. So she's been touring with Lauryn Hill. She's doing amazing things. She's originally from Buffalo. Amazing vocalist.
Shout out to her.
A powerhouse vocalist. First time I saw Love the Genius. Love the Genius is signed with Drumwork, so she works with Conway, J Skis. She's kind of like within that realm of Griselda. So shout out to Love the Genius. I saw Joy the drummer. So Joy is an amazing musician and drummer from Buffalo. She toured with Beyonce. So she was Beyonce's drummer for a year. I think not this tour, but the previous tour. She's certified. So she's dope. And I think who else did I see? There was a lot of dope women that I saw at that show. So shout out to Lindsay for putting that show on. This had to be like 2017, 2018 time. So around that time, I got to see them. So I got to see Love. I connected with another artist named Desiree Key, who's this amazing, she's like a countercultural goddess. That's how I can put it. It's like she always has this like really bright hair. She dresses like almost like this dope superhero anime character almost. She was just this, and I'm like, who is this cool black girl that's rapping? And so her, AI the Anomaly, who's a Christian rapper who I knew of because my dad had worked with her a lot, but she was kind of getting some crazy motion in the city at the time, and she ended up signing with, she's not signed to them anymore, but she was signed with God Over Money, which is this really dope Christian hip-hop label in the U.S. They have some dope artists on there. And who was the other person I wrote about as well? It was Desiree Key, Love the Genius, AI the Anomaly, and Che Noir. Can't forget Che Noir. I know you know Che Noir.
Ooh,
She signed to Trust, which is here in Rochester.
Right
Shout out
here
to
in
38
Rochester.
Special.
Shout out Spesh.
Yeah, shout out to 38 Special. So I did a 4-part series highlighting these women.
Shout out Shay. She's nice. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Please
she's
continue.
super nice. So I did a 4-part series talking about them, and I was enamored with all of them. Because for me, representation is everything.
Yes, ma'am.
It really is. Like, I feel like it's kind of, we hear it so much now, so now it doesn't hold the same weight it did before. And I know a lot of people think it's redundant, but there was a lot, I didn't see black women that look like me that carry themselves in a way where, like, they're respected, but they got a little swag with them, you know, like, and they can hold their own, and they can play with the guys.
Schondra, really quick, I'm sorry, I'm all about being intentional when we have conversations like this. When you say black women who look like me, can you please go a little bit deeper into that?
So I've always been kind of like tomboyish.
Yes, ma'am.
I feel like I've always been bigger than other kids.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm also very dark skinned. So these are like a lot of things that
I think
play.
you're beautiful personally.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
Yes,
same with you, man.
Appreciate you.
So these are like things that play with you, like I was talking earlier, especially like in high school. These are things that kind of mess with you, and you're like kind of like I really do not fit into any, you know. And I think another thing, we don't have the words for it, but I think a lot of young, and I could be wrong, you know, because things change, but I think a lot of young women of color, especially young dark-skinned women, they really try to lean into the desirability politics early. And I just knew I didn't fit into that, and I didn't even try.
I'm sorry, just for the listeners.
Yeah.
Can you define desirability politics?
Desirability politics, mainly like, would you fit, like, if like me on TV right now, right? I may not fit the desirability of like general America.
Yes.
Most general America is European beauty, blue eyes, blonde hair. I do not fit that at all.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, most main desirability look in like hip hop is probably like light skin mixed, you know, possibly curly hair, maybe not, maybe like an Ice Spice, Cardi B, Nicki Minaj. There's like a certain look, you know? And so that's what I mean is that, not to get deep into it, but that I just knew I never fit like really into that realm of beauty. I didn't fit the beauty standard, you know, that I guess I would see in high school or even in college. And so because of that, because I knew I didn't fit the beauty standard, it was sometimes hard for me to step out, I guess, and be social.
Yes.
And so, but my way of leading was, and I was telling my sister this actually, I was having a conversation with her, is that because I knew I technically couldn't lead with beauty, I always led with my knowledge.
Yes.
And so that's what I mean by admiring people like AI the Anomaly, because people are not looking at them by how they look, they're looking at them by what they're saying and how good they're spitting.
Yes.
And so that's what I was enamored with, because to me, you know, growing up, and it's just when you're young, you don't know the world, you see what other people are looking at, so you're going to try to move and assimilate to that. I never tried to assimilate to that, and I think that's even kind of, that was a flicker of me knowing, like, I'm just going to be me. I can't be anybody else. But I wasn't there yet. I didn't have that awareness and maturity yet. But long story short, that's why I became obsessed with really like a lot of the MCs, you know, a lot of the female MCs, is because no one's looking at necessarily how they look. They're looking at like what they're saying and how they keeping up with everybody else. And so that's what I really became enamored with. And I knew that that's what I gravitated to. And so, yeah, I was like, Queen City is about highlighting badass women. You know, that's what Christy said. And so I think these are 4 badass women that are doing their thing in their own way. All of them are different. Desiree is like really into anime and stuff, and she has all these dope looks, and her hair is always just like bright and vibrant. AI is a Christian rapper, but she can still spit hard too. And like, that might sound corny to people, but I'm not gonna lie, these Christian rappers become like, the Lecrae's and the I Don't Knows and the 1K Fuse, they've been going crazy. So AI, who is dope, Che Noir, who's just straight she's a straight beast. And the same thing with Love the Genius, which has a bit of a poetic feel, but she even kind of has that street tale vibe like Che Noir. So all of them I loved and I admired in a different way, and it was just kind of, I just felt like I needed to highlight them. And I think through writing about them, I was able to kind of like almost have a release in my way of like, these are the women. I'm now putting up what I think is dope. You know, everyone has their thing of who they think is dope or who they think is, I guess, desirable or who they think is like top notch. I think these women are top notch, and so it's almost kind of like me stamping my approval on what they're doing. So yeah, that was a huge moment for me, and I think that's a huge
The Fire from
turning
Seas.
point.
Fire from Seas.
Yeah.
So, Fire from Seas, you say you did that in 2017.
Yeah.
And that's when you really started to pick up and really start to have that confidence.
Yeah.
As far as writing about women, you said that really helped you feel more confident in yourself.
Yeah.
And it was just great to be able just to highlight so many female artists who people were mostly focused on what they say and how they looked.
Right.
Which is something we get caught up a lot of times, especially within media, especially within hip hop media.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I want to talk about before that, 2013 to 2017. So before that, when you started Sneakvibing, because you've been consistent for a decade.
It's crazy. You know what? And I'm gonna be honest with myself. I wouldn't say I've been consistent. I would say that I took certain steps.
Okay.
It was a really long. Even the fact that it took me 2013 to 2017 to really get there.
Yes.
You know?
Can you describe that process? Because you know, so many people, if they don't start seeing whatever it is that they're after, residuals, famous shout outs, anything, you know, they automatically, you know, give up. And the unique thing about Sneakvibing is that Sneakvibing came out at a time when Instagram didn't have videos. TikTok was not a thing.
Yeah.
YouTube was not nearly as established as it is now.
Right.
So, you know, you really had to, you know, do this off the muscle. Like, really, you know, carry this up a hill.
Yeah.
Now, you know, the last 5-6 years has, I would say, probably been easier than ever.
Yeah.
So can you talk to us about, or can you describe that time and what it was like during, like, your grind and the things you learned from 2013 to 2017?
2013 to 2017 was about building my confidence and building up some of my skills as a writer. So I don't want to say, I want to be fully honest and transparent. I wasn't really consistent. It was me kind of going back and forth, like, can I do this? That's what it was. I don't think I found consistency. Even when I started and I did the pivot Sneakvibing to make it more of a public thing, because it was really a private thing. It was a private journal for me, like kind of sharing. I mean, people on WordPress could find it. I would share my articles like on social media and stuff, but it was really very small. Right? And it's still technically kind of small, even though it's larger on social media now. But the blog part is still pretty small.
Yes, ma'am.
In my output, and then also in the fact that are a lot of people reading it? Not necessarily so. But from 2013 to 2017 was really about building up my confidence and kind of building me up as a writer, and building me up as not only a writer but also someone that is working in social settings. Because I think another thing that has gotten me this far is the fact that I've learned to channel my insecurities so that I don't, I guess, project that onto other people or try not to. And what I mean by that is, like I said earlier, I grew up in the church.
Yes, ma'am.
And so I got to bring this up because this is a huge part of it too. So growing up in the church, specifically the black church, it's a different experience for everyone.
Yes.
For me, I think there was definitely some values that came from it, you know, community, loving people, putting people first. I think there's some things that are always going to stay with me. At the same time, there's a lot of things I definitely disagreed with. There's a lot of cultural parts of specifically black churches that it was a struggle for me, if I'm being fully honest. I'm always about being transparent.
Yes, ma'am.
And so with that, I just never wanted to come off the way sometimes I would see people come off, just to keep it simple. And specifically, I would see these behaviors like in certain religious settings. And so I never wanted to be like that or seem like fake. And so that's why I was always quiet and to myself, because I felt like, also I felt like even when I did speak, you know, growing up in a, you know, somewhat Christian household, you speak, you're being disrespectful, you know? And so really what it was me kind of sharing my opinions and perspectives on things, not being rude, but being like honest. And so sometimes that was recepted, sometimes people received it, sometimes my parents didn't receive it. Most times they didn't receive it. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I was very much an introvert for a large part of my childhood and teenagehood. But I feel like as I became more of a person that was out and about and realizing that I have to be more social and talk to people, deal with a lot of different personalities, because my tolerance was low too. You know, someone that grew up in a, you know, religious institution and also going to Christian schools and all of that stuff, like I just didn't have the bandwidth that other people had at that time. And also I was young, you know, so I probably wasn't mature either. So long story short, basically, is that when I knew that I had to be this like social being that's out and about, I realized one thing I want people to feel around me is I want them to feel comfortable. I don't want them to feel intimidated. I don't want them to feel like I'm stepping on thin ice. I don't want people to feel like that around me, mm-hmm. you know, because I would feel like that around certain people. And so, and if people have a different thought than I do, I'm okay with that. I'm actually curious in how you're thinking about thinking, how your perspective is or what you're thinking. And so I think that's one thing that has gotten me far. I think, number one, it's God. I think it's just God that's gotten me far. But I also think it's me just valuing people. You know, valuing people, listening to people, having conversations with people has gotten me this far. Being curious, being wildly curious. That's another thing that I've always been. I'm actually shocked at how people are not as curious. I mean, like, don't you wonder how other people live? Like, how people live in the Appalachian Mountains, or people live in Mexico, or just how people live differently and how they are able to thrive in different spaces and settings. Mm-hmm. So I've just always been passionate about that. And so I think my wild curiosity integrated with me just being blessed enough to have the opportunities I do, integrated with me taking steps of faith and kind of like pushing fear out, has gotten me this far. I honestly think it's those things. And that's what I was experiencing from 2013 to 2017. During that time, I did a lot of internships too. So I was really writing for other people before I really started like taking off and writing for myself. Mm-hmm. I think that helped me too, kind of just build up, getting that cosign from other people like, oh, this is a great article, you know? Mm-hmm. I think manifestation helped a lot as well. Shout out to the Challenger News, one of the oldest black news, I think the oldest black newspaper in Buffalo, and I believe they service Rochester as well.
I believe so, I've heard of
that. So shout out to the Challenger News. For years, I was trying to write for the Challenger News, specifically during that 2013, 2017 time you talk about.
Yes, ma'am.
I did not write for the Challenger News until I went to Bo Flow Celebration. I think it was the first year I went to Bo Flow Celebration. And I'm walking down.
Can you tell what Bo Flow is for people?
Yes, so Bo Flow is, like I mentioned Lindsay Taylor earlier, Bo Flow is an annual event. It's almost like an annual festival. It's like a one-day festival. They call it a celebration, where there's like 3-4 different stages, and it highlights all local talent. And I mean, like hip-hop, rock, alternative, everything. There is a larger hip-hop presence there, which I think is dope, because we have other, not to mention others festivals, but we have other festivals. A lot of them are geared towards the rock and alternative community, because Buffalo does have and a shout out to the rock and alternative and country music scene in Buffalo. They have a very rich rock history, and so that's why that's catered to, which is totally understandable. But I feel like hip hop is definitely kind of trailblazing their own way and making sure that we have kind of like our own stock as well. And so Buffalo is one of those spaces where they really celebrate the hip hop scene and the R&B scene as well. And so they have a nice, large array of hip hop and R&B talent that perform. honestly one of my favorite events to go to every year, and I think we're entering 6th or 7th anniversary that he's been doing this. So again, shout out to Lindsey Taylor. He's been working in the music scene for a long time in Buffalo, especially event planning. So anyway, but I went to Buffalo either 2018 or 2019 was my first year, and I'm walking down and I bump into Leah. Leah is one of the editors at Challenger News. I believe she's the daughter of the owner as well, the Challenger News. And I didn't know who she was. We just started talking. And we talked and I found out she's Challenger. And I was like, I've been emailing you. Leah was specifically the person I've been emailing. I'm like, I've been emailing you for like the last couple of years for us to connect, for me to write. Because they were the only like really black publication that I knew in Buffalo, and I'm like, who else would I really want to, write for? I loved writing for WY Muslims, Queen City, The Public, The Record, but I mean, I definitely want to support my people and write about my people as well. And so I ended up bumping into her, and that's how I started writing for the Challenger News. So while I'm kind of pivoting, sneak vibing, I start getting these amazing opportunities, writing for Challenger News. That leads to me eventually writing for and also me being more confident, venturing out, writing for different publications. I got to write for BoFlo for a little bit of time. They had me on board writing about some of the artists that they were featuring at their celebration they have every year. And but long story short, to really kind of go back to that 2013 to 2017 period, that was a time of me taking those gradual steps, developing my confidence, and really building myself up, I think. Really building myself up to be like, to woo-saw, exhale, and say, okay, I can handle this.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it seems like 2013, 2017, from what I'm taking from this is that you still worked for yourself and you still built up Sneakvibing Media, but you also maintained a level of professionalism, and you utilized your networking capabilities, and you took other positions on the side as well.
Yeah, and I still do that now. Yeah. It's kind of like that strategy hasn't changed. Now I'm a contributing writing for Challenger News.
There you go.
Also for Buffalo Magazine, Buffalo Spree. So, a couple different publications, and I'll write for people here and there. I have something really special coming. And I believe August and September, I can't talk about it, but a writing piece that's coming up, and I'm really excited about that. So, yeah. Yeah.
So super excited for you, Schondra, to hear that, man. Can't wait till that comes out soon.
Yeah.
So Schondra, when you get to 2017, as you said, you did Fire FMCs, and that is pretty much when, I guess, Sneakvibing really kind of started to take off, in a sense.
I wouldn't say Sneakvibing took off. I would say my confidence in Sneakvibing. Like I really started putting more effort into Sneakvibing because I'm marinated. When I tell you I'm marinated, again, I will also say too that I'm a late bloomer, and I'm saying all these things because you don't know who's watching, and I always want to encourage people. I was one of the awkwardest. I was one of the awkwardest people ever. And I really had to, and I think I'm still a little awkward even now, but I really had to grow out of that just by taking leaps of faith, And so I want to encourage people that if you feel like you don't fit in, if you feel like awkward, that actually is your stroke of genius. Because there's something that you're perceiving or experiencing differently than other people, and your voice is valuable. I always tell people that your voice is valuable. And I realized even though I feel like I'm this awkward person that doesn't fit in anywhere, even to a certain degree, even now. I definitely feel like I found my tribe now, for sure. But I still feel like sometimes I don't necessarily fit in all the way. And I realized that's what makes me valuable, is my perspective and my voice. Because no one has my exact perspective and voice, and that's for everyone, But I say that to say basically that that's the reason, Sneakvibing has been so successful. But kind of going back to what you were saying, is that Sneakvibing, I personally feel like Sneakvibing really did not take off until sometime in 2020. I feel like that's when it seemed like my visibility became larger. And then I think after that, it just kept growing and growing and growing. And I think shout out to Zach G again, I think collaborating with Zach G last year even grew Sneakvibing even bigger now. So I really have to shout out Zach G and the Syracuse hip-hop scene, Ithaca hip-hop scene, Rochester hip-hop scene, Albany hip hop scene, so many, I can't even name them all, but Troy hip hop scene, all of them for really tapping in, and that's thanks to Zach G for creating Bridge Upstate. So there's been kind of like two like influxes of visibility. I feel like in 2020, and then I feel like last year, and it continues to grow. But I feel like my confidence in Sneakvibing and really putting effort into it happened in 2018. You know, that's where that seed cracked a little bit, and you see a plant start to come through. Is in 2018.
Certainly.
Yeah.
So, in 2018, what were like some of like the highlights for Sneakvibing? Because you've been featured on the Buffalo news stations. You've been featured in multiple publications. You've met and worked with Westside Gunn, Benny, and Conway, and other Buffalo artists such as Pretty Bulli. Shout out to Pretty Bulli once again.
Shout out Pretty Bulli.
And so did this kind of start to happen in 2018? Like, what were some of the highlights in 2018 when you said like it was starting to sprout?
When I say it was starting to sprout, like I feel like there was a connection, like there was a foundation I was building. When I talk about visibility, like I said, I kind of go back to 2020 and then also last year, 2023.
Okay.
But I would say 2018 was about feet on the ground, 2018 and 2019. So 2018, again, shout out to Queen City, they assigned me to write about this photographer named Ryan. I can't remember his last name, but a phenomenal photographer and visual artist. He was really known for doing like photography work with a lot of the larger businesses and institutions in Buffalo. He had this event that he was doing at Lafayette Hotel, the coffee shop. I forgot what the coffee shop is called. That's at the main floor or the bottom floor at Lafayette Hotel, the entry floor at Lafayette Hotel, where he was doing these installations. He was basically creating these backgrounds and then having all these, and also another thing, I did not know Buffalo had all these content creators. I had no clue, you know? So he was doing this thing where he was having all these like who's who and all these like content creators and creative people coming to this coffee shop at Lafayette. He would turn the coffee shop into different installations, and Queen City wanted me to write about him, or write about the event. I went to the event, I was blown away. I connected with as many people as I could, and then I pitched to Queen City to write about him and what he has done. And so I interviewed him, and I got to, again, connect at, I think it was called Solace, if I remember, or one of his events was called Solace, I can recall. And his event was definitely the start of something. Start in me, start of me being like really inspired just from creatives in Buffalo. So he had that event, and it was phenomenal. I mean, I'd never seen all these creatives in one room in this like aesthetically pleasing space, and we're talking, speaking with each other, connecting with each other. Like I was just blown away. And so that, I would say that was definitely a critical point, another turning point that like if I didn't experience that, I probably wouldn't have stayed the course. You know, there's certain things that you experience that like it like really boosts you up and helps you stay the course. So that was another thing that really stayed the course. So shout out to Ryan. He now is doing his thing. He's doing his big one in New York City. He's been in New York City I think the last couple of years. I saw that he worked with one of the dancers that was on Beyonce's tour. He's doing his thing. He's always been amazing. So shout out to Ryan. I'm trying to think of other things that happened in 2018. Other than that, I just feel like I was going to a lot of events. I feel like I really started to go to a lot of events. I really started to be more aware of social media. If someone was from Buffalo and they was following this person, or they would come up in my mentions, I was following them. I didn't even have to know them. So then by the time I see them outside, they're like, oh, I saw that you followed me, or I've seen you on social media. What do you do? You know, so social media has been another major part of the success of me being, you know, out and about, and also Sneakvibing. So I would really say I can't really recall any other events. But I know 2018 and 2019, I was outside.
Outside, okay.
I was going to as many events as possible and just really became obsessed with the creative scene. Also, I got to backtrack again. Another part, and I'm kind of like giving you like guys levels. There was a long period in time in which I felt like Buffalo didn't have anything to offer, and I say this with a grain of salt. This is when I was young. You know, I grew up again in a pretty somewhat sheltered home, and then a large part of my young adulthood, which is high school period and college, somewhat a college period, is I was still like in the Amherst area, and so I'm not seeing all these dope rappers and I'm not going to these art events. So when I really go to Buffalo State and become exposed to all of these artists, it really just changes my whole perspective on Buffalo. Because for a long time, I was convinced that I was going to move to New York City. As soon as I graduated high school, I was like, I'm moving to New York City, which would have been a wild thing to do. I probably would have struggled a lot. But yeah, but I ended up going to Upstate because they said, you know, in school, in-state tuition, it's gonna cover more things. So yeah, so this is another thing. So like I'm discovering Buffalo, even though I've grown up in Buffalo all my life. I'm really discovering Buffalo. So all of those things play a factor into my journey for 2018 and 2019. But simply put, those 2 years I was just like really outside.
2018, 2019, you're outside.
Yeah.
2017. You write Fiery from Seas, confidence, you believe in yourself, okay, I could do this. Yeah. 2018, 2019, a lot of the foundation for Sneakvibing, a lot of
the groundwork.
A lot of groundwork, a lot of networking, a lot of building, a lot of writing, a lot of hard work. 2020 comes along.
Yeah.
So 2020 is, you know, it's actually interesting. Let me set this precedent real quick. So I think a lot of people forget is that 2018, 2019, I feel like is really when the light started being shown on upstate hip hop. You know, we got a lot of really great projects between 2018 and 2020. 2021, but 2020. Yeah. Some of those projects is for you guys who are interested. Benny the Butcher came out with The Plugs I Met 1. I believe this was early 2020. Westside Gunn came out with Pray for Paris, masterpiece. Khan came out with a few during that time. I'm not as familiar with his discography, but Conway Machine was blowing up at that time too. I think, Stove God Cooks came out with a Reasonable Drought, and 38 Special came out with 38 Laws of Powder. Interstate 38, I believe, was in 2020.
Yeah, I remember Interstate 38.
Certainly. So,
Che Noir, Fall of Rome.
Thank you, Fall of Rome. I know I was forgetting one.
I'm trying to think of who else had projects. Jay Skis had a project called Asphalt Calligraphy.
Certainly.
I'm trying to think. Loved Genius had Loved Ones. Yeah, so it was
Frankie Knuckles. Franks had Liberation. Got to throw that one in there too as well.
Okay, shout out to Franks. Yeah.
Pretty Bully, I believe, had Respect Your History, followed up by The Breakup was around that time too.
Now see, Pretty Bully, I feel like I really missed out with Pretty Bully. I did not know that she had so much skin in the game too. But she was so low-key with it. Yes. I believe she was also kind of a ghostwriter for a lot of people. So
I got that vibe, too, from her, but I ain't ask her. But
no, she said, matter of fact, she said on another podcast that, like, she's okay, you know, she's okay with being or she's okay with still doing ghostwriting work, basically.
Certainly. Yeah, because Bulli is nice with that pen.
Yeah, she's definitely super nice.
But real quick, Schondra, I'm sorry, because I don't want to take this too far up off you. So there was a lot of great projects being mentioned, and my apologies to anybody upstate who dropped a project during that time if I couldn't name it, I'm sorry. Yeah. But there was a lot of great work being put into upstate. 2020 comes along, things are starting to roll. Like I said, the light on upstate hip hop is definitely directly over, you know, the four major cities being Albany, Syracuse, Rochester, and Buffalo. Then COVID. Early March. So, Schondra, how are you feeling at this time? Because to me, on the outside looking in, man, and sorry if this sounds selfish, I'm working with all these different, like my confidence is here. I did all this, all these years, 7 years of hard work to get Sneakvibing, you know, to the point it's at now. You know, so many things, the ball is starting to kind of get rolling and then bam. here comes this deadly disease that I'm sure impacted you in one way or another as far as family or friends or something to that nature. And now everything's shut down. So how was 2020 for you after all of them years of hard work?
Funny enough, 2020 was a blessing in disguise. So at this point in time, I was working. I was still working. I still work even now, even while hustling and doing everything I do. But I was working, and so I had a day job, and I was working in a corporate space, and I was kind of growing tired of it a little bit, and I was still doing everything that I was doing with Sneakvibing, like still out and about, still going to events, still connecting, still networking. That never stops. You know, that doesn't even stop now. Even like connecting with you, you know, it never stops. 2020 comes around. You know, everyone starts working from home. I take that opportunity to put in my 2 weeks. So I put in my 2 weeks. I got the opportunity to work for a startup. Shout out to shout out, this person knows who they are, but this person really connected me with an opportunity to work with a startup. I put in that application, I got the job, and so I put my 2 weeks notice in at my other job, which was, it was great because I was so ready to go. The beautiful part about this was the startup, because I live on Main Street, so pretty close to downtown Buffalo, and so the startup was in downtown Buffalo. Beautiful job. I would take the train straight to go to work, to go downtown. There was not a lot of people. They were kind of desperate because it was COVID and they needed people. We were working in a beautiful working facility. Where we were working at was awesome. Everyone that was working there when I was working there, a lot of them were artists and creatives outside of work. And so I connected with a lot of them. I connected with one person in particular. And we became good friends. So around this time, it was kind of like I got to kind of have relief from my old job. I got this new job that's super convenient, close to me, and I'm making a little bit more money because it was a startup, and so they had support. And so I was in a good situation, you know. I was in a good situation. And even though events were not happening, I was really able to, I think, so another thing that happened, and I can't really pinpoint exactly what caused it, but I turned from I still write, I'm always going to be a writer, but I really got into content creation. So making content, making videos. So before 2020, now I'm just having a realization, before 2020, I never really showed my face. I still really don't show my face on Sneakvibing. I do show my face way more than I used to, but I never really showed my face. It was more of me just sharing commentary on social media and things like that and referring people to the blog. 2020 comes around, I think I got more in my content bag. I'm also someone that loves aesthetically pleasing things. And design, I'm really into design. I recently discovered that I really love editing. Most people hate editing. I love editing content. I just never have enough time to, but I love to actually edit content myself. It was a period for me to rest. It was a period for me to kind of recoup myself. That was a blessed season, actually. 2020, from when COVID started, I did end up getting COVID, which sucked. And I actually lost my sense of taste, which was the most terrifying thing ever. Because, as you can see, I love to eat. So to eat and not be able to taste.
Schondra, come on, why you got to say that?
But I'm just saying, to eat and not be able to taste flavor is freaking terrifying.
I got you.
So keep that in there, too.
Yes, ma'am.
So, not being able to taste things was wild. The only thing I could taste was fruits and stuff. But any type of meat tasted disgusting. It was this weird, it's almost scary because it's what if our taste buds were not our taste buds? Like, how would things taste to us? Like, anything that was meat would taste like oily almost. Oh, only meat that did not taste bad was bacon. But I don't really eat bacon like that. But I ate bacon during that time because
the only thing that tasted
that was the only thing that tasted good because bacon has such a strong taste. But yeah, so long story short, I really just went off the rails with that.
That was hilarious.
But 2020 was really a time for me to like, I feel like it was a time for me to get a little bit reprieve. And so I wasn't outside as much, but I was still very active on social media. I really got into content creation. I really also I had a lot of things like happening in my personal life too that I got to experience. And I think it was good to have those experiences. And then I think 2021, even though like COVID, we were still kind of like recovering from COVID, 2021, I definitely was back outside for sure. And like I know I was back outside because 2021 was when, or did it happen? Oh no, 2021, Ladies First didn't happen until 2022. But 2021 was when I was really back outside connecting with people. And that eventually led to me connecting with, just not only music people, but also people that were just having an impact in the community. So I would just shout out to 2020 being a space where I could just kind of set my pace, So it was a blessing in disguise. I'm thankful that no one in my immediate family was impacted too crazy. I remember all of us did get COVID. I got COVID and then I got COVID again because I was around my family. And then all of us had COVID all under the one roof. But none of us had it more than a couple weeks. And I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful, a lot of people wasn't afforded that opportunity. A lot of people lost people or it had major impacts from it. But yeah, 2020 was a blessing in disguise for me. So I'm thankful for that.
Nah, certainly. It's 2020 was a rough one for me as well. I lost my granny and my aunt
oh my goodness,
6 weeks apart from one another.
Wow.
So,
sorry to hear that.
Nah, I appreciate that. Thank you. When you talk about it being a blessing in disguise, though, I definitely felt that because 2020 gave me time to, really make some real adult decisions. And although it had some very, very, I don't like to call them poor decisions, but had some lasting impacts. It's just great to hear that you took something from that and, you developed a new skill and that year and that time that you were allotted was able to help and inspire and promote so many different people and impact so many different people. So, we definitely salute you, Schondra, for being able to be strong through all that, for sure. But,
Thank you.
No problem at all. But, Schondra, yeah, just to, when 2021, I think things are kind of starting to open back up a little bit. So that's when you said you were back outside. Man, I'm not gonna lie. I will never, ever, ever be satisfied with COVID really just taking that from the hip hop scene in Upstate. I will never, ever forgive COVID for that. And I don't hope that doesn't sound...
Oh, you feel like it stopped the momentum.
What? And not to be disrespectful to anyone, who lost people, because some things are more important than hip-hop, respectfully,
Right.
so I don't say that to be rude.
Right.
But when we just focus on the music, you just look at like I said, we already named some of the project, but the 38, 38 Laws of Powder, 38 Strategies of Raw. We look at, like I said, Plugs I Met. We look at, The Breakup, which I think might have came after by Pretty Bulli, and so many of the projects that came out. But, what is it? Pray for Paris. And,
Pray for Paris was a big one. The Pray for
Reasonable Drought,
Paris, also shout out to Billy Esco. That Pray for, oh my gosh, this is embarrassing because I should know the title for this, but everyone knows a track that has Billy Esco on it. Billy Esco, I don't know if you ever heard of Billy
Familiar.
Esco. He is really another trailblazer in Buffalo with the cafe, wearing his cafe merch. Everyone knows his cafe hats and his cafe gear.
Certainly.
But him having that track with Tyler the Creator on it and Joey Badass on it and Westside Gunn was like a huge moment.
327?
Yes, 327. That's what it was. 327. I cannot believe I did not know that. That's embarrassing.
No problem. There's a lot of great songs on here. This is one of
Cut
them
that
albums.
one out.
This is one of them albums.
No, you can leave it.
Yeah, where you could just listen to it. So
yeah.
I understand.
Yeah, so that was like a huge win for Buffalo because Billy Esco is well known in Buffalo. So hearing that track and hearing him on there, then hearing Joey Badass on there, then hearing Tyler on there is like was bonkers. I know Buffalo was going crazy for a minute when that first joint dropped.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you know, that's why I look at it, I'm like, man, all this hard work that all of these, because you know, Schondra, real quick, just to take it before we get into what you've done more recently.
Yeah.
What I try to get people to understand is that, you know, up here in Buffalo, we are far away from really, I mean, what is it? Outside, even Albany is 3 hours. Albany's the closest out of the 4 major cities upstate, and they're even 3 hours away from New York City. Really 4. I think they're 3 hours away from the Bronx. So, you know, it's probably to get to Manhattan, it's probably like 4 or anywhere in Brooklyn or Queens. But, you know, labels ain't coming up here really looking for us.
Right.
You know, no disrespect to upstate, but, you know, we struggle. You know, when I went to Syracuse back in 2022, I remember an article came out and it said that Syracuse had the #1 child hunger rate in the country. Rochester.
That's crazy for me to, wow.
Yeah, 53% of the kids in Syracuse were hungry in 2022. I don't know if it's gotten any better or any worse, but according to that study.
Oh my goodness. I would never think Syracuse either. I mean, their sports, their communications, their...
The city of Syracuse, the school is phenomenal. The city of Syracuse is a very struggling city.
Wow.
Yeah, and no disrespect to anybody from Syracuse, but yes, the city of Syracuse is struggles immensely.
Wow.
Yes, much like Rochester.
But I would say, like, you know, because there's sports and everything is so big, and then also so many, you know, major journalists and writers have come out of there.
Yeah.
You would think that they would be, you know, going back in there, or you would think all the support they get specifically for their sports and stuff, like that would funnel into, you know, supporting the community. But you know, it doesn't always happen that way.
Certainly. So with that, be it Rochester, I think we're second. I think 49% of our kids are hungry.
Wow.
And then Buffalo, I think it was 6.
Wow.
So, you know, to say all that, in time out, actually, I got a 38 Special. He said this in a song. I forgot what song it was. He said that I'm from a city, or I'm from a place where there ain't no love and there's a whole lot of drugs. So upstate just struggles so much. Labels ain't really coming out here looking for talent. You know, the 5 boroughs, majority of them don't necessarily really claim us as New York or upstate.
Right.
You know, I remember when I went to college, I went to SUNY Oswego for my undergrad. They was like, oh yeah, they was like, what, you got cows in your backyard? Like, they think it's just all farmland.
Yeah.
So, you know, I thought that was funny. And
Wow.
yeah, so anyways, it ain't necessarily really the most desirable place in the world to live. And just to see all the hard work and all the collaboration and all the positive collaboration that came from a lot of, like, you know, like...
that narrative is changing, though. The last part when you were talking about how they don't consider upstate New York, or they don't consider Buffalo, because Buffalo is really not upstate. Buffalo is Western New York.
Yeah.
But they don't consider it, you know, New York. That narrative is starting to change now. That, you know, Griselda and 38 Special.
Everybody working with people.
Yeah, because now they realize, oh man, like there's a whole market out there of these, you know, these type of artists that is kind of bringing the '90s sound back.
Certainly, even Static Selector was in Rochester, the DJ from Shade 45.
Yeah.
He was sorry, I didn't mean to just assume you didn't.
Oh,
know
no,
that.
go ahead.
He came up here a couple weeks ago to Turntable, and Static Selector said this. He was like, I know I'm gonna catch hell on social media, but he was like, man, I love Upstate. He was like, these are his words. He said, man, you motherfuckers love hip hop more than anybody I've ever seen.
And that, to a certain degree, that's true.
Yeah, so, you know, to hear him say that, I was like, wow. But anyways, you know, because I kind of went off on a rant, just with everything that our cities have been through, whether Buffalo with the snowstorm a couple years ago, you know, that claimed the lives of I think close to like 100 people.
Man.
When you look at, you know, the top shooting.
Yeah.
And you
my goodness.
Yeah, you look at just so many of the things. DeMar Hamlin almost dying on the field. You know, and so many other things that have gone on in Syracuse and in Albany. You know, it was just like, man, like, imagine if COVID didn't happen, what Upstate would have been able to do. Imagine how we would have been able to take off. Like, imagine, what, the landscape of our hip hop culture and our hip hop market looks like. All these, because, it's hip hop isn't a new thing to Upstate.
Yeah.
There used to be an event here called the Fresh Fest. And that was held in the 80s, and, like, all different types of acts, like hip-hop acts in the 80s would come. I think Run DMC came up here. Rochester actually...
I was going to say another thing, too, like, shout out to a lot of the I don't know if architects is the right word, but propagators that kept, Buffalo hip-hop. Because even now that because I'm someone that's curious, and I do like to know about the history of what I'm doing. So, like, there's people that... shout out to Baby Steps. There was a coalition between UB and Buff State, where basically these UB and Buff State students would meet every, I think, either Wednesday or Thursday at Broadway Joe's. Westside Gunn talks about Broadway Joe's a lot. I think Benny the Butcher talks about Broadway Joe's too. And they would basically rap. And they had artists from New York City coming down. They had a lot of underground artists that are now major artists coming down. And I think either Wednesday or Thursday, they would just rap at Broadway Joe's. They would have these rap ciphers. They would have these rap performances. They would have a breakdance crew, which is crazy. Full circle moment again. So before I really got into my writing bag, there was a period where I really wanted to be a dancer. I was obsessed with the Jabberwockies, America's Best Dance Crew. Never missed an episode. I really got into early on. I would actually say freshman year of high school. So I discovered YouTube. YouTube was already a thing, but I didn't have access to it until like late middle school. And then freshman year of high school, everybody was on YouTube, mainly watching stupid videos or making stupid videos.
For sure.
And I remember my dad, one time we were watching all these stupid funny videos on YouTube, and my dad, being the father he is, which was another integral moment, I will never forget this moment. He was like, if you're gonna be on YouTube, do something of value. Watch something that's gonna like enrich you. Don't just watch all these stupid videos. And I was like, well, I like dancing, so let me watch the dance videos. Became obsessed with all these dance creators that are now, it's crazy now because I was watching them in 2010. They're like major. Now one of my favorite choreographers, Paris Goebel, I'm nerding out a little bit. I follow a lot of choreographers, so like even like a lot of tours I see, I'll be more excited about the choreographer than the artist. And so one of my favorite choreographers, Paris Goebel, she's the one that choreographed Rihanna's Super Bowl halftime show, but she's also responsible for choreographing a lot of Nicki Minaj's stuff. But I was watching her; she was eliminated from America's Best Dance Crew, like in 2011. And like, look at what she's doing now. Look at what she has created. And I mean, she works with everybody. She works with Rihanna, Nicki Minaj, all the top notch, like, female artists in the game. She works with. So I mean, it's just dope to see that as well. So that's another thing. I'm always trying to educate myself. But going back to what we were talking about was like really acknowledging those propagators in hip hop. Baby Steps. I was talking about dance because there was a studio called Verve Dance Studio that was in Buffalo. Shout out to Shane Dupree. And I didn't even put two and two together. I started going to, after watching those YouTube videos, obviously now I want to go somewhere and dance. So I discovered that I went on, again, social media or Googling dance studios in Buffalo. There was a dance studio downtown in Buffalo, hip-hop dance studio called Verve. I started going to their open sessions on Saturday, and I would see, shout out to Trev Thorne, who I didn't even know at the time. Was this rapper that was rapping with Idris Wajed, who's another just major powerhouse in Buffalo. He was a rapper, but now he's not only a rapper, he's like a jewelry maker. He's like a Renaissance man. He does a lot of the really dope black murals in Buffalo. I'm kind of going down a winding road right now. But just to kind of bring it all together, there were people that I was bumping into when I was young that I did not realize were giants in the community. And then once I became more active in the hip-hop community, 5, 6, 7 years later down the road, I bump into them again, and I'm like, oh, I used to see you at, oh, you were doing this years before I knew what you was doing. So it's beautiful how that happens. But shout out to Baby Steps. Shout out to there was another record label. I can't think of their name right now, but there was another record label that was around that was like really supporting artists in Buffalo. Shout out to DJ Che.
Yep.
You know, everyone talks about
Rest
DJ
in
Che,
peace.
Buff City Records, SE Gang, all of that, or SE Entertainment, I should say. Not gang affiliated.
Yeah.
So shout out to all of them for really paving the way for what we have right now. All of their efforts from all different angles, from the breakdancing scene to the hip hop cypher scene, to the college radio scene, to DJ Che's scene, to WBLK, all of that was all went into what we have now, which is this like really unique integration of music and art taking over Buffalo.
Certainly.
Yeah.
And Schondra, so just because I do want to get into some of your opinions and you know, because you had a lot of previous conversations, but yes. So 2021, you said that you was starting to get back outside. When did you meet Westside Gunn?
When did I meet Westside Gunn? I met Westside Gunn for the first time, and I'm gonna keep this story really short. At the opening of his Buffalo Kids store, store/gallery, in the Galleria Mall, which is historic in itself.
Yeah.
He basically, it was a major. Have you been to the Galleria before?
Yes, I have.
Yeah. So he basically got a store in the Galleria Mall, Buffalo Kids. He had his, but not only that, he had his, you know, he's really into wrestling, always has wrestling references.
Always.
In his music. And so he got a lot of I think bigger wrestlers that's in Buffalo or from Buffalo, and he had their signs all across Galleria. So not just where the store is, but all across the Galleria, which I thought was really dope. But I met him at the opening of his Buffalo Kids store in the Galleria Mall. This was maybe 2022. This might have been 2021.
Okay.
I can't remember. Either 2021 or 2022. I think 2021 now, I'm thinking about it. So basically, long story short, everyone was telling me get there early because it's going to be packed. And obviously it was. I get there late, very late with my sister, and our goal was to see if we can get an interview with Westside Gunn. We knew it was a long shot because it was going to be packed. All the news people were going to be there, and we were like, yeah. So we get there. Line is maybe 10, 20 feet away from the entrance of the store. So the line is hella long. We're all the way at the end. I'm like, I don't think we're gonna make it, but we're gonna try. So we stood there only a couple minutes, maybe 5 minutes we stood there. I bumped into a couple people that I know. And then I bump into a person who's a part of kind of Westside Gunn's entourage at the time. He was working on, I believe he was working on a movie with Benita Butcher and Westside Gunn. I forgot what the movie. I'm doing horrible right now. I should know this as a Buffalo aficionado.
Nah, you know a lot of things, Schondra. It's okay.
Yeah, but Benita Butcher was in a Conflicted. That's what it was. Benita Butcher was in a movie called Conflicted, and this guy who I was starting to build a relationship with, just because he was doing a lot of dope work in the community, he was part of Conflicted. So he bumps into me and he's like, "What are you doing at the back of the line?" And I'm like, I'm here. I'm waiting to get inside. He's like, "No, you're media. Come to the front." So me and my sister follow him to the front.
So he knew you from all that work you did before?
Yeah, so he knew me because he was doing a lot of community. Beside his work with Conflicted and working with Benny the Butcher and Griselda and everything, he was doing a lot of community work, really supporting the black youth in Buffalo. So there's this Afrofuturist group called Wakanda Alliance. Shout out to Wakanda Alliance. And he was working on Wakanda Alliance at the time. And I started going to some of their workshops and stuff. And so we kind of developed a really cool friendship. So he sees me, he's like, come to the front. And so we come to the front, he lets us into the space, and I'm like, wow, that is crazy. In a matter of a couple minutes, we were standing at the back of the line, feet down, and now we're in the front, and I just felt blessed in that moment. And so obviously I'm trying to work my magic, okay, so we're getting footage, but I really would like to get that interview. That's my goal. That was my goal, to get that interview with Westside Gunn. And so I see another fellow that I did not know at the time, but I saw him, within Westside Gunn's group called D-Jack. Shout out to D-Jack. He's a mover and shaker in Buffalo, always involved in like what's next in Buffalo, and he's always doing something dope. Always kind of behind the scenes, but he's always doing dope things. So shout out to D-Jack. And I asked D-Jack, I was like, hey, I think he was doing some managerial work for Griselda or Westside Gunn. I'm not sure exactly what the specifics were, but he was working for them and doing work with them. And so I asked him, I was like, hey, do you think we could get an interview with Westside Gunn? He was like, I'm not sure. He's been interviewed all day. I'm like, yeah, I know. I want to at least try. And he came back. He was like, you know what? Actually, Westside Gunn, he's willing to do the interview. We did it right on there on the spot. Westside Gunn is a cool dude, swaggy dude, very man of few words. He says a lot with those few words though. And it was a dope experience. He was cool. We took a picture. We had a little photo op. His gallery was awesome. It was dope to see so many local artists. The thing that really makes me happy too is that there are a lot of artists, that brown and black artists particularly, that make amazing art. But they never get the opportunity to share their art or display their art or install their art where the larger Buffalo community can see it, and even beyond that, the larger mainstream community can see it. So for Westside Gunn to have a piano fully painted by True EV, who's been doing art in Buffalo and art in New York City, he's doing amazing things now. To have a cardboard cutouts from, I'm gonna pronounce his name wrong, Tayshian, I think his name is. He's from New York City, but he went to UB, I believe. A dope, humble artist that was doing amazing stuff at UB. To have his cardboard work, he specializes in making these amazing, almost like comic book pieces out of cardboard. It's phenomenal. And there was some other artists in there. I can't remember all of them, but there was some other artists in there. A lot of local talent that was just displayed so beautifully and so upper echelon. And I was obsessed with that. So that was just one story, but it was great meeting Westside Gunn. And then eventually, I think the year after that, I met Benny the Butcher at Deion Dawkins, who's a football player for Buffalo Bills. He has his Deion Dawkins 716 Day every year. And so that's where I met Benny the Butcher. And then I ended up getting an interview with Benny the Butcher, I think a year after that, I think in 2023, maybe late 2022. And I met Conway. I really met Conway this year, but I had bumped into Kanye and got to have a mini photo op with him a couple of years ago. So I've been blessed to really meet all three of them and engage with them and interview them, which is awesome.
Yeah, I really admire that work for you because it came over time, not overnight.
Yeah.
Some people ask me some of my key interviews, dream interviews, and I don't know. I try not to fan out too much about people because at the end of the day, most of us, or almost all of us, I would assume we put our pants on one pant leg at a time.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But Special definitely. Just growing up in Rochester and just never thinking that anybody would ever make it out of. I grew up a little bit pessimistic, forgive me, but never thinking that anybody would make it out of Rochester, and then Special's
doing a lot of dope stuff.
Doing what he's doing.
I believe too. He really. I know DJ Shay had a huge impact on, Benny the Butcher, but Benny also credits Spesh for kind of being a guide for him, which I think is dope, and you can see the influence as well. Nah,
certainly. And, and I love when them two make music, man. I wish they did a little bit more recently, but they doing their things, and I'm proud of them. But anyways, Special's always one of those people, and people be like, well, why don't you reach out? I'm like, I haven't done enough. And that's not to discredit my own work, because I put in a lot of hard work into this. I got more to say thing, Schondra. Ooh, Lord, I tell people, this hairline got to how it got to be for a reason. This is work. I try not to stress, man, but, it comes with it. So that's why you see my middle's missing at 24. Ain't that some shit? But anyway, ain't that some shit, Schondra? Lord have mercy. But anyways, it's also genetics. But that's besides the point. At least I ain't ugly. You know what I'm saying? I'm glad God ain't make, you know what I'm saying? So I shout out to him for that. Anyway, Schondra. But no, Special's one of my, key interviews that I would love to have. And I tell people, and you know, somebody asked me the other day, they was like, well, Cato, why do you feel like you haven't done enough? I was like, you know, I met this, well, I met you over the phone, but I was like, I met this young woman named Schondra, and she's been doing Sneakvibing Media since 2013. And I was like, if I'm not mistaken, I think she just got to start interviewing some big people from some big name artists from Buffalo. I was like, I think within like the last 3 years. So I was like, it took her 7, 8 years to do that. So I was like, why do I think that I could just do it in one? You see? So,
well, I will say this. So I really consider the last 5 years of me really working, because, like I said, that 2013 to 2017 was me figuring myself out. So really, 2017, I would say, is when I really started putting in the work, and then I really didn't see the fruits of my labor, like those interviews and stuff, till 2021.
Yeah.
So even it was still what, 4
or 5 years? Yeah, you see.
So.
You know?
But so how long have you been doing this?
So officially, I launched I Got More to Say. I believe the official date is either January 10th. Because this was a part of actually a class that I took at Syracuse, where you pretty much had to create your own business. So officially then, first day I ever shot was February 15th.
Of this year?
No, of last year. No,
of last year.
2023. Yes, of last year was the first day I've shot my first ever I Got More to Say episode. Never will be seen. It was awful. You know, it takes time to get you know, comfortable on the camera. And then as far as for when I Got More to Say launched, we launched August 2nd of 2023. So we actually coming up. I mean, this probably will come out probably by the time our anniversary happens, or probably it might come out after. But the day we officially launched is August 2nd, 2023. So as far as when I launched this platform, we almost had 11 months. Yeah, 4th of July. Excuse me. Tomorrow will be 11 months. And then a year, a month after that will be August 2nd. That'll be a year.
Wow.
Yeah, so, you know, it's been a journey, but I'm sorry, I'm taking it away from you. But
no, but like, no, really,
but
no.
seeing all the hard work you put in.
Thank you, man. But I'm just saying, like, kind of just to put it back even on what you're doing, like, what you're doing is, like, you're consistent, you're thorough, so, like, I mean, and the thing about it is that you never know where the opportunity is going to come from.
Ever. Yeah.
So that's why it's just kind of, like, staying aware of that and kind of, like, you see an opportunity coming, like, grabbing that. You never know where and even just being there, being present. Like, when I think about that Westside Gunn story, it blows my mind, like, being at the end of the line, and then within 5 minutes, because of all the hard work I've put in for years and people seeing me do it, one person crosses by and says, you don't deserve to be here. You're supposed to be up there. You know, so it's just about that. You never know where it's going to come from. And I remember this one, I was watching this podcast randomly one time, and I remember this guy said, if you believe you're going to be successful, you're going to be successful. Just don't limit what you'll be successful in.
For sure.
Because you think you're going to be successful in one thing, and it'll be a whole other thing. For the longest time, I definitely thought I was going to be like a famous break dancer. I was so wrong. But it's beautiful how, like, things have kind of blossomed into this new road that I was kind of able to create for myself, and it took a lot of trial and error. That 2013 to 20, it took 5 years for me to even build up the confidence to do what I'm doing now. So, but I'm thankful for it. I really am. So yeah, but kudos to you. That basically the reason why I was saying that was kudos to you, and like just stay cognizant, because I feel like you never know when that opportunity is going to come, and it doesn't necessarily have to be 10 years. Sometimes it could be 6 months if you're putting in that right work, and I feel like you're putting in amazing, consistent, thorough work. So,
thank you.
Yeah, you never know.
I appreciate that, Schondra.
Absolutely.
I'm definitely going to make sure I keep that in mind, because I admire so much what you do. But Schondra, so you talked about meeting, the Griselda team. So 2022, you mentioned this earlier, is when you did your event, Ladies First.
Yeah.
Please walk us through that ordeal in that event, because, that's something I think out of everything I admire about you, I think that's one of I think that's probably like number one. So can you walk us through Ladies First?
Yeah, absolutely.
What it is, how it came about?
So Ladies First is basically a project and event series. So basically it's a project and event series to highlight women in hip hop in Buffalo. So women that are working in Buffalo's hip hop scene, I just wanted to highlight them. This is, again, like when I say Fire Youth MCs kind of set the foundation or set the tone. because I'm a black girl that loves hip hop music, I'm going to gravitate towards other black women that are either in hip hop or working in hip hop. And I saw a lot of dope women that were in the hip hop scene, and they necessarily don't get the attention or they don't get the acknowledgments, but they're working hard.
Who are some of those
to like
women?
support these artists.
Can you give us 2 or 3?
I remember when I first saw Michelle Visa, Adri V. One of my first ever story for the Challenger News was on Adri V. If you don't know Adri V, she has been a radio personality on WBLK for a long time, but she's just in the community. She's always in the community. She has, such a captivating personality. She's well connected. She's done a lot of work. And she's done a lot of work in New York, but also in Buffalo. And I got to actually write her story, which was such a dope. I didn't even realize how big that was for that to be my first, and that was a cover story. So that was amazing. But Adri V, who I have, been able to learn more about and connect with, Michelle Visa, who I saw was kind of had her own flair on how she was a journalist, not only a journalist, but now she's kind of in her rap bag right now and what she's doing. Who are other women? Nephron 3000, Neph, who is a super close friend of mine now. She is someone who's like always been supporting. She's just like that really cool, like swaggy homegirl that everyone knows. All the artists knew. She was supporting artists. She was like like really doing like homegrown A&Ring for artists. A lot of rappers would let her listen to their music, say yay or nay. She was like that one homegirl that a lot of hip hop artists could go to and ask about her opinion. And so she was someone that, I became close friends with, and like I really have such a high respect for her. And she's honestly too the reason why I feel like I'm able to do what I do, because she's shared so much of her insight on how she moves in the scene. Leah from the Challenger News. These are some of the women that I actually highlighted in my First Lady's first project. I'm trying to think. Eula Banks, who's a phenomenal photographer, woman photographer, highlighting. She went on tour with Benny. She's done a lot of work for people affiliated within the Griselda scope, but just highlighting getting photos and videos of rappers at such a high level. Her work is like, amazing. She actually worked and was on the Sneakvibing team for a little bit, and she's kind of like an honorary member. And she was a part of Ladies First. Who else? Who else can I think of? I'll mention a couple more people. AI The Anomaly was someone that I highlighted. Desiree Key was someone that I highlighted. So a lot of people that was a part of Fire Reef MCs was actually a part of the first Ladies First project I did. And so, yeah, so that's just a handful. So you kind of know Brooke Blakely, who was she was designing clothes for artists and rappers in Buffalo. So she would design the clothes for them if they needed like a custom fit. She would design it for them. And I don't think she's originally from Buffalo, but she's done some amazing work in Buffalo. And I believe she's a part of. There's a gallery called Buffalo Art Movement. I believe she's a part of that as well. So I think it was 20 women that we highlighted that first year. But just to kind of go back to it. Those are some of the women we highlighted, but it was basically focusing on women that work within Buffalo's hip-hop realm that I feel like just deserve to receive their flowers because they're working hard. And I always want to, hip-hop is revolutionary in that it's all about representation. It's all about sharing a voice of the unheard or the voice of people that are chronically overlooked and underserved.
Yes, ma'am.
And so that's why I think even women in hip-hop are blossoming right now because of that. Because for a long time, our voice wasn't heard. Nicki Minaj kind of like kicked the doors down. But now, the range of hip-hop artists we have, and people, I'm going to go on my hot take really quick, and then I'm going to get out of it. People complain about the Ice Spices, the Sexy Reds. They are part of that range. We have Ice Spice and Sexy Reds, but then we also have the Rhapsodies. We also have the Little Sims. We also have the Pretty Bullies, the Che Noirs, the Love the Geniuses. We also have there's another rapper. I cannot think of her name right now, but I'm obsessed with her. I think Angel Hayes is in that group too, but there's another rapper. I can't think of her name right now, but we have range. That's the thing. Now, I do still feel like certain rappers don't get the same representation. Female rappers don't get the same representation as other rappers do, but we should be. We're such in a shock awe era with people. Like, we love to be outraged and shocked. But if you actually take a look at what the hip-hop scene is, and Vince Staples said this, and he got a lot of hate for it, that hip-hop is the biggest it's ever been. Because look at the range of artists that you can have that are thriving. They all have their own like cult following and are able to thrive. The Lottos, all of them. And so it's cool that I think we get to have the range of over here, then we have the ranges in the middle, then we have the ranges over here, the spitters. I mean, we have diversity, and that's what it's about. Not only diversity in color, but diversity in content, and diversity in looks, and diversity in everything. So that's me getting in my hot topic. Now I'm getting back out of it.
Ladies first.
But to go back to ladies first.
Yes, ma'am.
That's why I really started it, to show that diversity as well. And so, long story short, I connected with this amazing a woman named Bronwyn Keenan. She was from New York City. She was doing all these dope things in New York City. She had a gallery in New York City. She was very well connected. She was a director for UB Arts Collaboratory. And she reached out to me on social media. She said, hey, I've heard your name a couple times. Let's meet. We met. She's a Cancer too. I'm a Cancer. We connected immediately. She kind of brought me on as almost like a liaison a little bit, kind of connecting, UB Arts Collaboratory to hip-hop artists, music artists in Buffalo. And so we just worked closely for a good 2 to 3 months. During that time, I pitched my own idea. I said, I have an idea to, highlight women in hip-hop, but really be intentional with it. So I curated the 16 to 20 women that I chose, and then we made sure that we highlighted each element of hip-hop. So breakdancing, turntablism, history, graffiti, and MCing. Yeah. So all 5 elements of hip hop, and I wanted a woman to highlight each element, so to perform. But also we had a film go with it. So almost like a short form interview film that would be aired during the event. We did that event. It was fully sponsored by UB. Shout out to Torn Space. Shout out to Dan Shanahan of Torn Space for allowing us to have it as a space. It was a sold-out event. It did really well. It got news coverage on 3 different news platforms. It was in the newspaper, and it was an amazing event. And people were amazed. I think people were amazed by not just the talent of the women of Buffalo, but also now they're aware. So a lot of the stuff I do, how people say edutainment, I'm educating and I'm entertaining. That's kind of what I do with Sneakvibing, but I want to do it in a way where it feels like entertainment, but you're really being educated on what Buffalo has to offer. And so Ladies First, I wanted Ladies First to be an annual thing, but it was a lot of work. 2023, I was in the accelerator program. I really did not have the time, but shout out to BNMC, the accelerator program I was in. I was basically kind of building up my business acumen at that time, and Torn Space reached out to me. Actually, Dan from Torn Space reached out to me in 2023 and said, hey, Ladies First was so great. Do you want to do it again? And I was like, if you're providing the space and you're telling me to do it again, let's do it. So we did it this year. We did it May 11th this year. It was a sold out event again. This year I was way more intentional about making sure every artist really highlighted the different elements of hip hop. So we had Pretty Bulli, who was the MC. We had a visual artist who was also a Buffalo Schools teacher. Maggie Giamo. We also had DJ Little Italy, who's this really dope underground artist, and she's very passionate about not only people of color, like brown and black people, and really highlighting their music. But she's also very passionate about brown and black LGBT scene. So she does a lot of work for a lot of the like brown and black LGBT parties in Buffalo and events. And then we also had DJ Lisa Lux, and we also had Navi. And she had dancers. One of them was Stacy, who was a part of the First Ladies First, and she's a crumper. And she's also was the sister of the late great Jimmy Rook Hawkins, who he passed away a couple years ago. Phenomenal, dynamic dancer in Buffalo. He was well respected by a lot of people. I met him at Verve. When I used to go to Verve Dance Studio, he's a part of, his impact he had on the Buffalo music and art scene is, cannot be expressed in words. So shout out to Jimmy Rook Hawkins and the impact he left. But I felt so grateful to have her a part of Ladies First. And she definitely represented her brother and did an amazing job. But yeah, so same thing we did again. But Ladies First is essentially a project to celebrate and educate women in hip hop and let people know about, what they're doing.
Ladies First now is an annual event.
So now it will be.
Yeah.
So we took a break 2023, but so many people was like, why did you take the break? Like, we needed this. They wanted more than a year. I'm like, I can only do it a year. But now it's going to be an annual thing.
Okay,
yes,
gotcha.
For sure.
Yeah, and Schondra, I see that you do a lot of work within the schools in Buffalo. Within a lot of, you do a lot of work with children, but especially like young women. Where does your passion for being essentially an inspiration and a teacher and just a bright spot within the Buffalo community and really taking time to give back to the youth in Buffalo, like where does that come from?
Well, that was another thing. I always said, you never know how you're going to be successful. That was something that I was not expecting. When schools started reaching out to me for me to come and speak to their kids, I was like, what? Like, I'm just writing and talking about hip hop, and then I'm also like not sure how I can translate what I'm talking about. A lot of it, is explicit content. How I'm going to translate that to young teenagers in a school setting. But, I was down for the challenge, and I think I kind of figured out, how I can talk about the scene in a way that for kids and teenagers, for them to understand it, and not only for them to broaden their horizons, and become curious. I think a lot of the reasons I've been successful is because I've been curious enough to venture out and ask questions and engage with people about things. That was something that I wasn't expecting. Schools reaching out to me, and the more I went to schools, the more I realized kids feel empowered when they feel heard, when they feel represented. So the first thing I would do when I would go to a school is, after the first couple schools reached out to me, I started to realize kids like to talk. They like to share their opinions and perspectives. I have strong opinions and perspectives. So that's kind of how I would approach a lot of these opportunities with schools. I would basically have a workshop and ask them first, who are artists you listen to? I would tell them, give me your top 3. So they're saying, Rod Wave, NBA Youngboy, Ice Spice, Then I would ask them, why are they your favorite artists? And you got to give me 3. Don't just say, oh, they're good. Give me 3 reasons why. The reason why I would do that is because music discovery led me to self-discovery. So say
that again?
Music discovery led me to self-discovery, meaning that through music, I'm able to connect with people that I typically wouldn't connect with, And so understanding the why of why I like this artist. So for example, I'm going to say Joey Badass. Joey Badass is one of my favorite rappers of all time.
Super nice.
He's crazy with it. Yeah. And he's so, it's almost effortless. Joey Badass, I remember where I was when I first heard Christ Conscious. Man, first of all, that whole tape was crazy. But I remember where I was when I heard Christ conscious, and I remember where I was when I first heard Joey Badass. And Joey Badass made me understand 90s hip hop, specifically Wu-Tang.
Yeah.
After I listened to Joey Badass, I started listening to Wu-Tang. I started going back, listening to Cannibal. I started going back, listening to all of these different people, Nori and all of these people, after Joey Badass, because Joey Badass presented that sound in a way that was new and fresh. And so that's why I love Joey Badass, because he's able to communicate the strifes of our people as being a black person, as being a person that wants to be successful, as being a person that has their, we're multidimensional in a way. Like, we're not all, ghetto or loud. And also, you need to ask yourself, if you do think a certain group of people is ghetto or loud, ask why. So my thing is always getting to the why. So when I would go to these schools, I would ask the kids why, and it would be interesting of like what I would get. I remember I asked this one kid why he likes this certain artist, and he said, because every time I listen to this artist, I'm with my sister. So this artist bonds me closer to my sister. And he said that artist also has a sister, and a lot of their music they do together. And so now music, what do they say? Music is the measurement. Don't they say music is like the measurement of time? Something like, there's some quote that's like music is the measurement of time. And that music, you can hear a song and it brings you back. Like nostalgic.
Yes.
And so for him, this specific artist was able to not only bring nostalgia, but also develop a bond with his sister. And so that's what I was trying to get to, why you like a certain artist, because it also will help you uncover things about yourself. So long story short, the opportunities of going into schools was something I never anticipated. I did not reach out to schools. A lot of times they reached out to me, and I'm just grateful for the opportunity to kind of share the message of Sneakvibing, but also to give back to young people. So I really feel like Bronwyn of UB Arts Collaboratory, she used to call me a culture worker all the time, and I thought that was like a weird term, but now I really embrace it. Like, I am a culture worker. Like, I'm in the community, but I'm also doing music and art stuff, but I'm also developing these like one-on-one relationships with people and kids and young people. So yeah, but that's just another long story short. I know I'm very long-winded, but yeah, to kind of go back to that. That's really what has blossomed from doing these school workshops.
Certainly. Yeah. And Schondra, because you said before that, one of your key goals for Sneakvibing is to provide a platform that is primarily, to provide a hip-hop platform, media platform that is primarily ran by women.
Yes.
And what do you think your impact is having on young black girls?
Oh, man. So that question, and you didn't do anything wrong. That question sometimes triggers me in a little bit of way, because I feel like there's so many ways people can be enlightened, I was enlightened through hip-hop music. Yes. I was enlightened through being involved in the music and art. People get enlightened through sports. People get enlightened through experiences. People get enlightened through traveling. So many different things. This is just an opportunity for people to be enlightened in this way if they choose to see fit. They have to personally connect with it. So I'm hoping that women, and obviously I have a special place in my heart for women of color, black women, dark-skinned women, for them to feel, represented and feel like they can share their perspective without being torn down or demeaned, and also feel like they're being represented properly and in the right light. So I'm hoping that is an enlightenment for them. If it's not, that's okay. But I want to make sure I provide a space that is enlightenment, for everybody, for all different kind of people. Is there a focus on really supporting the woman's perspective? Absolutely. I think there are an influx of platforms that are coming from the male perspective, especially when it comes to rap and hip hop. And with women really dominating the hip hop scene, there should be more platforms and at least podcasts that are highlighting hip hop from a woman's perspective,
That's why I brought you
And
here.
so that's why I feel like that's a niche that I can fit, and I've been doing the work for a long time. So I feel like I can grow and continue to blossom in that. But you know, if this is a point of enlightenment, if this is a point of enlightenment for you, that's dope. I love that. If it's not, I mean, that's okay. But I really do feel like we can fill I feel like Sneakvibing can really fill a niche in the hip hop scene, in that a lot of the commentary is coming from, you know, black women or women in general. Also, shout out to Felicia. I don't know if you've seen it on my page, but Felicia is a actual licensed health professional. She's she lived in Buffalo for a little bit. I don't think she's originally from Buffalo, but she lived in Buffalo for quite a time. Now she's in New York City doing her thing, but she does our Mental Health Mondays. I believe every other week or every 2 weeks on Sneakvibing. And again, she's another woman sharing her perspective on the hip hop, but through a mental health scope. So I think it's really dope to have that diversity, and we're hoping to grow it. You know, right now it's me and her and a couple people helping me behind the scenes, but we want it to grow, and so that there's all different kind of women sharing their commentary, and so you're still, even though it's women ran, you're still getting this diversity of thought and perspective.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
No, certainly. And, you know, Schondra, I'm sorry if anything I said came off the wrong way.
Oh, no, you didn't say anything wrong.
Okay.
The reason why that triggers me a little bit is because anytime women are, I think anytime women are doing something that's a little bit away from the norm, we become, or they become almost like I'm trying to find the right words. They can become like almost like this like relic. Like there's this thing, like for example, Oprah. Oprah gets that a lot. Like where Oprah is this person that has, and she has had a positive influence. She's been a point of enlightenment for a lot of people, and a point of representation as well. I think for anyone my age or probably older, for sure, at one point in time heard of Oprah and was admired or was enamored by Oprah because she was a black woman that was doing all these dope things at a high level. But then there's just, I think sometimes there could be this assumption that we want to be, sometimes people are role models just by being themselves, basically. That's what I'm saying. That's the point I'm trying to make, is that just being you could be a role model for someone and you don't even know it. You know, you could be a point of enlightenment for someone and you don't even know it. So that's what I was trying to say. But you did not do anything wrong. I'll hear like interviewers say that, and I'm like, sometimes I'm just doing this. Like I'm just doing this. So I hope that doesn't confuse you. I kind of went down the whole rabbit hole there, but yeah.
I understand, Schondra. Like I said, I really just admire what you're doing. And
thank you.
There's the reason why I asked is just I don't know, like I try to do my best to make sure that I have a lot of equal representation within the I Got More to Say platform. So I try to feature, I try to include as many people as possible, as many decent people. Because Lord knows I'm not gonna waste my time. But yeah, I just look at what you do, and just to hear you just be so powerful and be like, I have this platform. I want it to be, essentially highlight women. I want more women to be in the hip hop media landscape, and you're doing it at such a high level. You've been doing it for a consistent amount of time. I just look to you, and I'm like, wow, I know that there are so many children, but especially young black women such as yourself. You said dark-skinned black women who look to you, and not necessarily as a relic, but they're like, man, like Schondra, as you said, being herself, and she inspires me. And Nipsey Hussle said this when he was here with us physically. He said the highest human act is to inspire. So I just see what you're doing. Like I said, I'm just so blown away. Because I'm just man, I really just admired at a high level. So, Schondra, you mentioned two things. Two things I caught from this interview a lot. The first thing is that you shouted out about 100 people, which I think is phenomenal. You shouted out about 100 people, 100 great people. I'm sure they're lovely people. Pray to God one day I get a chance to meet all these people. Not in one day, but over the course of a lifetime. And the second thing is that you're all about giving. You said that I'm all about giving people their flowers. And Schondra, It's actually interesting that you say that because that's something we do here at I Got More to Say. You know what I'm saying? We give people their flowers, and this is what this platform is for. And, you know, to give people their flowers, not only to give them their, not necessarily give them their voice, but to extend a voice and a platform to them. But we also do it literally. So stay right there, Schondra.
What?
The time, Schondra.
Wow.
To go out. These flowers are courtesy of Galea's greenhouse here in Rochester, New York. Shout out to Galea, shout out to Ari. I'll make sure I leave her information down below. But I took the time to go out, Schondra, and to actually give you your flowers. You know, we have a segment on the show. Anytime I like to highlight people and show appreciation to people who are consistently within their community, who are consistently giving back, who are being an inspiration to the next generations that are coming up, and you know, who really do, you know, this music / hip hop thing, or this black music, as I like to call it. Because I focus on black music, not just hip hop, at a high level. And Schondra, I have been nothing but
why am I
amazed.
getting emotional right
no,
now?
No problem
this
at all.
Is crazy.
I have been nothing but amazed and inspired and you know, motivated as I've seen you, what you have known with Sneakvibing Media. I love the fact that you provide a platform for you know, so many people, and I love that you provide a platform especially for black people, but especially black women. And for you to be a black woman, to be running this, doing it at a high level, and you know, even myself, I'm a Christian, and for you to be a Christian woman at that, and to still be, you know, within your morals, and not with necessarily morals, but to continue to live a great righteous life, and also be able, you know what I'm saying, to be within the hip hop space and just have something so positive. These are for you. You know, I salute you for everything that you do for our people, and just for our people, and especially the kids. And you know, these are long overdue. You don't do nothing but talk great about people. So anyway, Schondra, I don't want to be too long-winded, but these are your flowers. Why you know what I'm saying? I present
Thank
these
you,
to
man. What? I got it.
No problem.
Can I put it on here?
Yes, ma'am. You can put it on the table. Or set it in the center here. So these are for you, Schondra.
Wow, this is beautiful.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh my goodness. I'm trying not to like get emotional and tear up. Oh my God.
It's no problem at all, Schondra.
Thank you, man. I appreciate this. Like I really do. Like, wow. I don't take anything for granted. So like I really like appreciate this. This really just made my day. My day was already made because I really just got to enjoy, you know, Rochester. Shout out to Rochester. Y'all have some beautiful spaces here. You know, not every place in Rochester is like, you know, there's some rough places, but there's some beautiful spaces too. And I already had an amazing day just enjoying like the greenery, walking up and down Park Avenue. But getting this is just, you know, the topping on the cake. So
certainly.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you.
No problem at all. Well, Schondra, as we wrap up, anything that you want to look into that camera and let the world know?
That is it. Like, you know, I hope I was long-winded. I talked a lot. I was a supreme yapper today. But I thank you so much, Cato, for having me. You know, I got more to say. I always got something to say.
There you go.
But if you haven't heard of me, my name is Schondra. You can follow, you know, me at Schondra the Writer on Instagram and Twitter. You can also follow Sneakvibing at Sneakvibing Media. I'm gonna spell it for you. Sneak, SNEAK, Vibing, VIBING, Media, MEDIA. On Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. You might see us on Christian Mingle, who knows. But yes, thank you so much for having me again, and this was awesome.
Certainly, Schondra. Thank you so much for coming and kicking with me, and thank you so much for sharing your story, and for highlighting so many things that go on upstate. You know what I'm saying? You are always appreciated, and I pray to God that these flowers, for as long as they live, and then some, you know, are a constant reminder of that. But anyways, you guys, this is Schondra. I'm Timothy Cato III, and as always, I got more to say.